Why was Tucker Carlson really fired from Fox News? The writer Chadwick Moore, who has written a new biography of Tucker Carlson, thinks he knows the reason and had this to say in a video he made today. Let's watch.
I've also seen the monologue that Tucker planned to deliver on Monday, April 24th, before his show was abruptly taken off the air. That monologue dealt with, among other things, investigations around January 6th, and particularly Ray Epps, the only person captured on video inciting people to violence at the Capitol that day, and allegedly an FBI informant who still has not been arrested or charged. Ironically, a good part of the monologue also dealt with the people and forces that are trying to silence him, like AOC and others in government. It has now been reported that his firing was a condition demanded by Dominion as part of the settlement with Fox. Although Dominion has denied this, my sources have intimate knowledge of the situation, and they have assured me, even before this news leaked, that that is, in fact, the truth.
So Tucker Carlson retweeted that. He quote tweeted it with those eyes, the two eyes people do when they're like look intently at this.
So what's the implication here?
Well, I think the implication is because Tucker retweeted it, I think that's giving some additional credence to the claim that this might have been having something to do with the Dominion lawsuit.
Right.
Sorry,
go ahead.
And then also that Tucker was planning to do even more coverage of January 6th, of the theory, very popular on the right, has not been really, the theory that individual, Ray Epps, we've talked about this on the show, was an FBI agent. No evidence has come forward to verify that. You can see him on video the day before the Capitol urging illegal action. In fact, actually other protesters say, Fed, no, because they know the person urging illegal action in other cases has turned out to be a federal informant. And Ray Epps also then, made statements, perhaps exaggerating, but claiming to have had a really important role in organizing the whole thing. He was on 60 Minutes, I think, talking about how I've been turned into the scapegoat, et cetera. Poor me.
But,
so Tucker was going to do more reporting on that.
So Tucker Carlson obviously has talked at length about Ray Epps in the past. It didn't seem to be an issue for Fox News at that time. I completely get how Tucker retweeting this clip corroborates the theory that it was a Dominion lawsuit condition. I'm just a little confused about what we're supposed to read into the content of his Monday remarks, because it did seem like he was making the argument kind of tacitly that he was both canceled because of the Dominion lawsuit, but also because of the content going forward was distasteful to Fox News.
Chadwick Moore is suggesting I think they were trying to get him off. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just trying to work out what argument is being made.
I mean, AOC has, to be clear, multiple times said that letting Tucker be on the air is like
for sure. But is the argument that Fox News is in cahoots with AOC, like an agreement, locked arms with AOC, or was being influenced by AOC in any way and getting rid of Tucker Carlson? Or is it that they were afraid of being exposed to additional liability because of the tapes?
I think what this person's view is, and I don't know whether this is accurate, but it's news, I think, that Tucker quote tweeted it. This person is saying that they had to get rid of him because of some handshake agreement from the Dominion lawsuit, and then wanted to get rid of him before he was going to deliver this monologue.
It'd be interesting to see if he actually does go ahead and deliver the monologue. I mean, just the fact...
Now he can do whatever he wants.
Sure. I mean, the fact that he has given so many monologues that I would argue are much more controversial than this one seems to be, based on the description and what we know here. Again, who knows? We haven't heard it. Does make me a little skeptical that it's about the particular Monday content as opposed to the Dominion lawsuit. Because again, over and over again, what we see is that money talks. The decisions that are being made in terms of how Twitter administers its content, the decisions that are being made by other social media companies, the decisions that are being made politically, when you bend the knee to Modi or some other authoritarian government, and that, is cutting against your free speech advocacy, all of these decisions end up being made for financial reasons. And that's not necessarily an indictment. It's just that when we're constantly talking about things in free speech terms or substance terms, and it's really about other kind of decision making, I think it can obscure the story. So I do think there's a world in which Fox News could stand behind everything that Tucker Carlson says, could obviously appreciated how remunerative his presence on Fox News has been for years. But at the end of the day, how many $1 billion again that they had to pay to Dominion just wasn't worth the squeeze of what Tucker was bringing in, and so they had to cut ties.
Yeah, $787 million, right? That's what the lawsuit was?
Right.
Yeah. So obviously, right now, Tucker is in this dispute with the company. He wants his freedom. He wants to speak. It's been about a month since the firing. I think it's been exactly a month, actually, which also raises that. So, and Tucker, so it's Chadwick Moore, the person who did that video, who we just watched, has a biography of Tucker coming out. He suggests, and again, I can't verify what his level of access to Tucker was, but the fact that, again, the Tucker account tweeted this suggests to me that there is some level of cooperation or coordination between them. He says he had a lot of access to Tucker and to Tucker's staff prior to and then as it was happening, as the ouster was taking place. Tucker right now obviously is, he has retained the attorney. He wants a break with Fox. He wants to be able to speak his mind. He's said he's launching a show on Twitter. And we should say Fox and Dominion have both denied that the lawsuit required them to axe Tucker. They've said that has nothing to do with it. They've not offered a reason beyond that. It's a real interesting time period. So this could be, we've reported previously that Tucker signaled to his allies that they can start speaking out more loudly on his behalf. It's a really interesting time.
Yeah, I'm curious from a kind of optics perspective, what does it mean to people? What does it mean to conservatives if Tucker was let go because of the Dominion lawsuit versus because of a difference of opinion on content substantively? Because there's Fox has denied it. Fox, wants to be in a position where it says that the choice to let him go has nothing to do with what happened at Dominion. It's not clear to me that that's for legal reasons or because of the kind of public perception reasons. Right. But I can see an argument where Fox is in a better position saying, hey, we love Tucker, but we were forced to let him go. Like, we love Tucker, we agree with Tucker, we support Tucker, but we were strong-armed into letting him go. And Tucker, similarly, I feel like is in a more, is in a better position to claim that he was wronged if he can say Fox News chose to let me go. They've been throttling me. They've been trying to negatively impact my content. They didn't want me to give my Monday monologue versus, but for a lawsuit in which they were exposed for nearly $750 million of liability, I would have continued to have a relationship with the program. It seems to be there's something a little wishy-washy about this argument here, and I'm not entirely sure who benefits from the claim, one way or the other, that it was really Dominion that caused Tucker to be terminated.
Yeah, I don't know, but from Tucker's perspective, he has said he does not, or the argument that his camp has advanced is that it's a breach of contract on the company's part because he was guaranteed that proceeding with this lawsuit was not going to open him up to a kind of risk or embarrassment. That they could have either not fought the lawsuit as long as they did and maybe pay out something without this, or they could have actually fought it to the jury. I mean, this is what he's arguing. His camp is arguing that the way they did it negatively impacted him,
and that was trial.
They should have paid out more money and not fired anyone.
Remember that part of the timing of the settlement was right before Rupert Murdoch was set to give a deposition, right?
Right.
So those are the trade-offs. We already found out so much about behind-the-scenes communications that, frankly, also I think reflected poorly on Tucker Carlson and some of the other Fox News hosts, insofar as they had public positions and private positions about things like Stop the Steal and Donald Trump.
Right. What I'm saying is you could have paid out before any of that happened.
Yeah, but how much?
Well,
That's the question.
Right, but I think everything that happened
pay
probably
$1 billion, right?
Well, it could have. Maybe they would have had to pay less. I mean, the developments of the case, as it was proceeding, were perceived to be favorable to Dominion, that it was verging
Correct.
even further in their direction. So maybe they would have had to pay out less, and they would have saved themselves some of these disclosures if they had agreed to settle earlier. I think that's, again, I'm not saying that's the case. I think that's what Tucker's side is arguing.
Sure, but nobody's going to, unless they had knowledge of what the communications were, which a lot of it was text messages and stuff that the company wouldn't necessarily have knowledge of.
They only knew about them because of the lawsuit.
No, but I'm saying not knowing how exposed you were is going to preclude you from being willing to settle for any meaningful sum of money a priori. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, like, but for, wistfully thinking, if I had hindsight is 20/20, but realistically speaking, strategically speaking, I don't know how the Tucker camp can really argue before we knew we had any legal liability, we should have given them hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever it would have been, even if it's half of what they had to pay. You can see from Fox's perspective, not knowing what the documents were going to reveal, I'm going to pay you $350 million, let's say, to settle. Now, if they did know, if they had any sense of what if they did their own internal doc review and saw their exposure and still chose to wait as long as it did to settle, that is negligent, and I can understand why the Tucker camp would be upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. We will continue to follow that. More Rising right after this.